Hi.
Good evening, Honorable Chair Representative Gonzalez and Honorable Chair Timothy, and esteemed members of the legislation. I do want to say very briefly, excuse any interruption. We're actually currently at a community event, also pushing this initiative, so you may hear a little commotion in the background.
Okay.
Thank you again for the opportunity to speak in support of Senate Bill 1545, which would serve to implement the recommendations of the Special Legislative Commission on Structural Racism in Correctional Facilities of the Commonwealth. My name is LaToya Whiteside. I'm a senior attorney and the director and founder of the Race, Equity, and Corrections Initiative at Prisoner Legal Services. I also served as a commissioner on the Special Legislative Commission, and I've worked very closely with the bill sponsors, Representative Holmes and Senator Miranda, in order to prioritize this bill. If I may, I would like to begin with a quote that was published in the commission's final report that came out December 22nd, 2022. These are quotes from the co-chairs of that commission, former Representative Nika Ugardo and Senator Jamie Eldridge. Senator Jamie Eldridge states, I recognize that eliminating racial disparities and dismantling structural racism within our correctional facilities is just one of many reforms that need to be implemented to create a more just criminal justice system in Massachusetts. Representative Ugardo states today's prisons are an unacceptable substitute for true rehabilitation and restoration. Few enter and leave restored and ready to reintegrate. Victims are not served by the current model. Correctional officers are not served by it. Overlay the normalization of structural racism, and the results are not counterproductive, or are not only counterproductive, but also unfair and unjust for communities of color across the Commonwealth. We need to build a better way, one that truly aligns with our corrections mission to rehabilitate and prepare people for healthy reentry into corrections, and one that safely and transparently equips and honors the first responders who serve to carry out that mission. I chose to use those quotes because they get to the heart of the issue of this bill, which is it's not so much about pointing out the particular shortcomings of the Department of Corrections as it is about dismantling structural racism and how we can work in a systematized and collective manner to push the needle beyond mere conversation and acknowledgement of structural racism, but to actually bring about positive solutions. So let's be honest, structural racism is a complex issue. We all don't necessarily fully understand not only the ramifications of structural racism, but actually how to remedy that. However, even with that understanding, we need to act. And this bill is a tool that will move us in that direction, starting with the very first step of collecting substantive racial demographics. I see that I've run out of time, so I don't want to be repetitive, and I recognize that you all have been here for a very long time. So I will say that a lot of our currently incarcerated community members did point out how individuals are adversely impacted by the lack of substantive racial demographics. But I want to point out that the lack of that data also makes it difficult for organizations such as PLS to do their jobs. It was very difficult for the commission to carry out its mandate, and we had to rely primarily on qualitative data and testimony because the data just does not exist. So I urge you to support this bill, not only to mandate the state to collect substantive racial demographics, which would be the first in the nation to actually do that, but also to implement effective oversight, which is also something that Massachusetts accurately and correctly does with all of its public agencies, and I don't think that the Department of Corrections should be an exception to that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you for your work on the commission.